Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Welcome, everybody, to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Along with G. Bush, I'm Adam the Bull. Jay Crawford will join us shortly, and we got a lot to get to on a big Friday show. Plenty to talk about with the Browns having game number 4 this weekend, the Guardians having locked up a bye, playing 3 more regular season games. So a lot to get to. Before we get to our first topic, we're going to get to Amari Cooper and his comments yesterday. We're going to get to the AFC North versus the AL Central. Guys, I got to say something because every Cleveland fan should be emotional about this. What happened in Oakland yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
The Oakland A's played their final game. Nobody's been going to the games this year, but they had the largest crowd in the history of the stadium. No, I'm sorry, not the largest crowd in the history of the stadium.
This year.
The largest crowd this year, and the largest crowd ever for a team's final game in its city. It was a packed house in Oakland, and it's an absolute disgrace that Major League Baseball is taking this team out of Oakland. I was reading some articles about, like, the owner's a disgrace. And apparently the owner of the Padres was leading a group of guys to not allow Oakland to do this, and then he died, the owner of the Padres, and that went down the tubes. It's an absolute disgrace that this team is being moved, and they're going to play in a minor league stadium for at least 3 years.
The real shame is, if you think about it, Oakland, a once great sports town.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Raiders fans and how great they were.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to go in the black hole. The A's were World Series winners and regular playoff contenders in the 70s and again in the 90s. And the Warriors were winning championships. That city has lost all 3 of its teams. Now, granted, the Warriors just moved across the Bay, but they said we can't be in Oakland anymore. Now, there are a lot of reasons for teams not being able to be financially successful in Oakland. But can you imagine? That'd be like in the span of a couple of years, Cleveland loses the Browns, Guardians, and Cavs.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's unfair to the people of Oakland, and the owner of the Oakland A's is a disgrace. He makes Dolan seem like a big spender. It's despicable, and the league should never let it happen. But the league only cares about their billionaires and their owners. They don't care about the fans or the players.
Quietly, the league is fine with this. They're fine with it. Quietly.
Right, yeah.
I mean, on the surface, they have to be like, this is really a tragedy for Oakland.
Nah, they don't care.
It's a market that just is not bearing fruit, so they cut that tree down and move it somewhere else. It's not making money.
It's not making money because they have not invested in the team.
It's the demographics.
It has a lot to do with demographics, but also a league is as strong as its weakest link. And unfortunately, and Bull, I'm with you. I think this is a tragedy. I'm not saying that this is acceptable or a good thing. But in the long run, the league will be healthier without a franchise in Oakland and with a team in Las Vegas. We think. We don't know what Las Vegas is going to bring. We don't know.
I don't believe that, and I think if they had an owner that was committed to winning and not just putting money in his pocket, it might have been different. You can't blame the fans for not going when the team is awful for a last bunch of years.
No, they've got great fans.
And their payroll is nothing. I mean, it's disgraceful.
They've looked like a AAA team the last couple of years.
Yes, they have.
To be all honest. And what's crazy about that, Bull, as nuts as that is, and as bad as they have been, the Chicago White Sox, a third largest market.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they're not the A franchise in that third market, but they're in the third largest market. They literally make the A's team from last year and this year look like a playoff contender.
That's right.
That's how bad Chicago has been. Yeah. And there's never going to be a threat that Chicago leaves, the White Sox leave.
No.
When you start having, and this is just a problem, it's just the reality of the situation. A lot of what your stadium and a lot of what your team's perception is the local fan base and what is the economic situation in that said city. And when you look at Oakland, once you pull the Warriors out of Oakland, you take a lot of the dollars out of Oakland. And right now, you look at it, it's San Francisco and Oakland. Right? They call it the Bay Area. But guess what? You know, if you're asking yourself, what area do I want to have my team in? Where's the businesses? Where's the most money? Where's the tax dollars that I can get? You're looking at San Francisco, not Oakland.
Right, but that wasn't a choice. That wasn't an option.
No, they were never going to move across the bay. San Francisco wouldn't.
Well, the shiny when the Raiders went to Las Vegas, it was a shiny new thing. Like, oh,
but they're not even ready. They haven't even started building a stadium.
Yeah, I think the
whole
despicable thing about this, Bull, is when a team makes a move, it's planned.
Yeah.
And you work ahead, and the city of Oakland should have been able to keep the A's
right
for the 3 years that it's going to take to build them a new stadium in Las Vegas.
The whole thing was done half-assed, it seems.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in terms of attendance, I know we'll get to the Browns in a second, but meanwhile, the Guardians are going to go over 2 million fans for the first time since 2017.
Yeah.
And if they average roughly 20,000 a game for these last 3 games, it will be the largest total attendance since 2008.
Yeah, which is saying something because that's when they still drew at ridiculous levels.
Right, and so it's pretty exciting. And
it is.
And the fan base has done their part. Hopefully ownership will do this offseason. That's an offseason.
You know what's crazy is the fact that this franchise once sold out 455 straight games.
Yeah.
When you think about what that means on a Tuesday, regular afternoon, 1 o'clock game in the early spring, you're selling it out.
Against a bad team.
Against a bad team. So 455 straight games.
Yeah.
And now they've downsized that stadium twice.
Right.
To more fit the current demographics of Cleveland. But it's good to see that these levels are back to 2008-ish.
Yeah.
They're
not going to finish too far behind 2008 in terms of total attendance.
I'm doing a story that will run on Channel 3 during the first week of the playoffs on the 1994 season. I call it the forgotten season. It's 30 years ago. 30 years ago right now, the Guardians were in position to make the playoffs. They were in a playoff spot when the unprecedented player strike wiped out the entire World Series. Now, when you think about that, World War I, the World Series never got canceled.
Nope.
World War II, the World Series never got canceled. All of these major world events and the players and the owners cost us the 94 season.
9/11.
Played the World Series. They missed some games in the regular season, but they played the World Series. What's most stunning to me about the fact that we lost that season, and I was talking to Sandy Alomar and Carlos Baerga for the feature. I'm talking to Tom Hamilton after the show today. I'm going over there to talk to him about the 94 season. What's crazy, Bull, and a lot of people forget about this, but if the 94 playoffs had happened, that means 95 wouldn't have been the first taste for the Indians.
Right, yeah.
It wouldn't have been their first World Series in 41 years. 97 wouldn't have been their second. It would have been their third. Who knows?
Well, you don't know they would have gotten to the World Series.
No.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about playoff experience under the belt.
Yeah, right.
They were on pace to get major playoff experience in 94, and it never happened. So the team's growth in the postseason was stunted. Who knows?
Right.
Maybe they get over the Marlins. Maybe they get over the Braves.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah,
but it was a shame that whole season wiped out.
I don't know about you. I know we got to move on, but I remember thinking that whole time, they're not going to wipe out the World Series.
I did too.
I was like, this can't happen.
I kept saying, it's never happened. It can't happen.
Yeah, and it did.
All right,
sadly.
Mike.
Big show. Let's jump into it, guys, after a quick word from FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start your season big with the return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get in the hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing your first $5 bet. You can do that all at FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We'll preview the Raiders game, the offensive line, the quarterback situations. We'll get to all of that in a sec, but Amari Cooper made a comment yesterday about the local media, and the part that went across everything on social media was a snippet of the full answer. So I want to play you guys the full answer and exchange. Mary Kay asked the question. It's there in open locker room. The question's a little tough to hear. It's about the freeze frame on 4th down, Deshaun not throwing to Jordan Akins. And this is the full exchange between Mary Kay, Amari Cooper, and I'm curious if you guys have any issue with what Amari Cooper had to say. Steve, let's hear it.
Can you weigh in on sort of the freeze frame issue that a lot of people have been talking about this week? Just the freeze frame issue in terms of, like, people have been ripping Deshaun for missing Jordan Akins on that 4th and 1 and showing a freeze frame of Jordan supposedly.
I haven't seen. I don't even know what you're talking about. Honestly, I haven't seen what you're talking about. So I don't know. I can't really give any commentary on it.
Yeah, I'm basically just asking in general. People seem to criticize or comment on what happens on a particular play. But
Right.
is it not always what it seems? I guess.
Like I said, I haven't seen that particular thing that you're talking about, but I mean, it's football at the end of the day. Some plays you're going to make, some plays you aren't going to make. I assume that's what they're getting at. It's just like anybody else who has a job. Some of y'all don't ask the best questions, but hey, you don't hear me criticizing. So, I think it's just the nature of the business. I mean, obviously we get scrutinized more than you guys do. So, I mean, I think maybe y'all should start asking questions in front of the camera so they can see y'all's faces. But yeah, I just think that's just how it goes. They see everything we do under a microscope, so we're going to get scrutinized more.
Any issue with what Amari said there?
I don't.
I loved it.
No, I got no problem with it. I have zero problem. First of all, when the clip that was going around Twitter yesterday was shorter, it didn't have the part where he kind of giggled there about it.
Like what was initially going around made it look like he was being condescending to the media,
like he was
and that
pissed.
he was challenging them.
Right.
When in reality, he was answering a very good question, by the way, from Mary Kay. Because I think, and I wonder what you guys think about this. It seems like more this year than any year before. And maybe it's because we all have access to the plays and the technology. Sure. But it seems like more this year than at any other time I can remember. You've got average Joe Six-Pack fan drawing up what he thinks is going on a play, and that's it's not accurate.
You're going to have, that's part of the deal, right? Football is so popular, so many people care about it.
Sure.
People want more access. There's more information available. And every year that goes by, the camera angles are fantastic. We got high def, we got 4K. So, and yes, everybody thinks they're an expert. True. Like even former NFL quarterbacks like Bernie, who commented on it, Sean King, even they don't know the play call. And they're more qualified to talk about it than anybody else. But
you need all the information to accurately break down what happens on any given play.
But
we all think we know what assignments are, but we don't.
In the same vein, okay, our job as media, I can't speak for fans, is to give commentary and give opinions.
Sure.
So you try, if you're trying to do your job as best as possible, which I know we do, and I think most people do, not everybody, is you give the most educated opinion you can get. Well, obviously we don't have every last piece of information, but if we only made opinions on things that we have every last piece of information on, we'd have nothing to say.
No, I agree with that, but Bull, I also think it's important that we stay over our skis. We don't get over our skis. And I see a lot of that going on, particularly this year. And when I say, okay, if Dan Orlovsky wants to break down a play, that comes with a certain level of cachet.
Sure.
Not a ton, but more than any of us have.
Yeah.
Fair.
If Bernie Kosar wants to break it down, it comes with a little more cachet.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if Tom Brady wants to break it down, I'm probably all in. However, for someone to accurately and completely break down what happens on any given play, they need to know what the play call was and what every guy on the field's assignments are.
I call it the fantasy football generation. We know statistically that people, like the numbers are down from people playing football at ages all across the world. Like from the ages of 12 on, there are less and less and less people playing football. But the sport is the most popular sport in the world. So what happens? You have a fantasy team. You watch all the games, you hear all the commentary. Why can't I break that play down?
You think you're an expert?
Like somebody, one of the quotes, I'll probably screw it up, but some people are just competent enough to fool themselves into thinking they're experts. And what happens is they need even more knowledge to understand that they have no clue. I can't. Why you think Sean King? I played defensive line at a MAC school. I watch a lot of film. I call Tyvis. I'll hit him up in the middle of a dinner and be like, hey, what is this play right here? I need to know about this, and that. But it's naive to think that guys are screenshotting and circling things and they've never been under center. They don't know what it feels like. And to be truthful, they used to weed people out by if you wanted to talk about the sport, they weeded you out by being like, okay, buddy, you come to conditioning for 2 weeks. Then you could talk about the sport. Because you had to run, you had to lift, you had to do things. Even in this game, the way we talk about in your opinion matters or whatever the case may be, even we have to go through trial by fire.
Sure.
Like, this ain't the first rodeo. Like, you know, I was doing this for 14 years before I got on this show. You've been doing it for how long? People think that their opinion is much more informed, and it's always funny because if you put them in front of a microphone and say, go, they'd be like,
Yeah. And especially when it goes, like, it's all yours now. You tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
No help. I remember once on First Take, we had an epic argument. It was slated to be a 5-minute topic. It ended up being a 45-minute debate. It was Skip Bayless on one side saying, you do not have to have played the game to be an expert. And Chris Carter and Jalen Rose on the other side saying, you may not have to be a former player to have a level of understanding, but it is unquestionable, at least it was to them, and I agreed with them at the end of the debate. You cannot have the same level of understanding of what's going on if you've never played it. And, that's a age-old debate, and it turned heated, and it took a lot of crazy turns. We had pro athletes that were reaching out to the show saying, I want to come in, I want to talk about this because this is not talked about enough. And Skip was adamant. He knows just as much about football as Chris Carter and Jalen Rose when it comes to basketball. And they were both like, you can fool yourself and think that, but you don't.
Just the same way he'd probably say, listen, I know more about being an entertainer. What we are,
or writing a column.
Right.
That's Skip's real level of expertise.
By the way, you may know, just because you know more about football doesn't mean you're always right.
No, of course not, because,
Right.
Bull, if there was, and I said this during the debate, I said, guys, if there was an always right, there would be a manual that all 32 coaches get when they get that office, and they would never lose.
Yeah.
There is, because you're absolutely right on that point. Like, there's opinion, there's theory, there's what defense do you subscribe to? Do you want to run a 4-3? Do you want to run a 3-4? There's no right. There's maybe a better in the moment. And what we're seeing right now is the defense in the moment is the two high safeties, and it's causing fits for offenses. But they'll figure that out. They'll find a workaround, and they'll be fine.
The more you know, the more you play, the more experience you have, the more educated your opinion is going to be.
Right, I agree with that.
Nobody's got the perfect answer.
But that being said, too, there are guys that have played 15 years that when I listen to them talk about the game, I'm like, oh, my God.
But I'm saying you can be extremely knowledgeable and never played in the NFL.
That's a fact.
I think you have to play on some level to have some, even if it's high school or whatever.
I do,
just to have some level of, I've played the game.
I agree with that. I'll wrap this point up, and then you guys can give a final thought. To me, here was my takeaway.
Yeah.
I love Amari Cooper even more than I thought I did. And here's why. What are you talking about? Like what are you talking? Now, if you asked Deshaun Watson that question, he would have a definitive answer because we know that he's looking at everything. And I think the value of not seeking this stuff out, and Amari Cooper doesn't seem to me, I don't know, maybe he has social media accounts and I'm not aware of them. He doesn't seem to me to be a person who's running to the locker room after a game and grabbing his phone to look at his mentions. He's living in the space that matters. He's in reality. The second you grab that device, you are no longer in reality. Yeah. And I love the fact that he doesn't even know what's going on. And he doesn't care.
I don't care. And media members, myself included, all of us included, have asked stupid questions from time to time.
Fact.
Everybody does it. It's fine. Now, our job is to be critical at times of players. A player's job is not to be critical of media. That doesn't mean we can't be criticized. We get criticized all the time. Just because we don't get criticized, Amari said you guys don't get criticized as much, which he's right. Players obviously criticize more than media. But in fairness, we get criticized more than most people in other professions.
Well, because we're public people.
Exactly, and that's fine.
And that's what we signed up for.
That's fine.
I agree.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either.
And so if he wants, and he wasn't even, again, he was being kind of lighthearted about it. He wasn't really being that serious. But the whole thing did start because Deshaun Watson said that Akins was a decoy, and it felt like an excuse. Yeah, and that's how the whole thing started.
Right.
Well, and so really quickly, for people to understand, like when you put in plays, there are certain routes that you run that we call on the backside of a route, right? That person is not the number one option. When you draw up plays, they'll say option one is him. If it isn't here, go over here. That's the second option. Third is this one.
Yeah.
That isn't even an option. We're not even throwing that ball right there. And so sometimes people, when you say decoy, what does that mean? You're like, well, listen, every person that goes on a route is not meant to have the football.
Sure, but
but if he's
sometimes
wide
it
open,
breaks down, and you got to. And if you're looking in that direction now,
I agree with you, Bull.
Ken Dorsey and Jordan Aiken, neither one of them said he was a decoy.
No, and
now maybe
by the way,
I don't.
Just uttering those words.
Yeah.
He's a decoy.
Yeah.
If you really think about that, I understand that there are certain plays where you've got option 1, option 2, option 3.
Yeah.
The fact that he is a pass catcher and he is on a route and he is open, he's no longer a decoy. He's a target. And he better be a target. And here's the whole thing with the decoy. If you stop throwing the decoys and only your primary receiver, because remember, the primary receiver is the target, but then you option down. Okay, what's my second read? Here. Third read. What, he wasn't at least the third read? You've got to go through your reads, and if there is an open pass catcher on the grass, he better be a target. And I think, and by the way, I've talked to players in the league that said that answer is absolute garbage. Garbage. He never should have said it. He probably would like to have it back. But I don't care if he's a decoy or not on that given play. If he's open and he's a pass catcher, he's got to be the target.
Do we have the Ken Dorsey clip yesterday, Mike? Can we play that real quick?
No, but we got some breaking news we got to get to. This is actually an important Browns update. I'm going to do a Robin Hood read, then we're going to talk about the offensive line. With Robin Hood Gold, guys, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robin Hood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robin Hood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Mary Kay just tweeted out, guys, that Jed Wills, Jack Conklin, David Njoku, and Pierre Strong all out officially for Sunday's
What happened?
game.
I thought Jed Wills just said he was going to play.
Before the show, you and I were talking, and you said it sounds like Jed Wills is in line to play. Jed Wills officially ruled out, which means we have no godly idea what the offensive line configuration will look like outside of Zach Zinter at right guard and Ethan Pochitz at center. Coming off a game against the Giants where the offensive line struggled mightily, G. Bush said it was the worst offensive line performance he had ever seen after watching the All-22 back.
Pochitz is going to play center?
No, that's a good point, actually. We don't know.
Because didn't he move to guard at one point?
Yeah, healthy, just don't know if he's going to play center.
Yeah, we know Bitonio's going to be in there. We know Pochitz is going to be in there. And we know
Zinter
is going to play right guard.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So you got 3 pieces for 5 slots.
What's DeJuan's status? Is DeJuan playing?
Haven't heard that he's not.
The final injury report comes out tomorrow.
Okay.
Zach Jackson said either Bitonio or James Hudson will play left tackle. If Bitonio plays left tackle, we could see Pochitz at left guard again, Harris at center, Zinter at right guard, and then the right tackle could be, they called up Buffetti, potentially him, DeJuan Jones.
They signed a couple other guys for depth.
Yeah.
If they start, we're in big
trouble. It's a dire situation.
It sounds like DeJuan Jones will probably play right tackle. Otherwise, we would have seen some injury stuff.
I would think he'll be at right tackle. I would think Bitonio will be at left tackle. I just don't know if you put James Hudson at left tackle.
I don't. But then at least Bitonio and Pochitz get to play their positions.
I understand that.
It's not good either way. Let's face it.
What you're doing is you're playing a shell game.
Yeah.
And you're moving parts. You're trying to fit him into position. Bitonio is on record, he doesn't love playing left tackle.
No, and he struggled.
He has struggled at left tackle. He's just undersized. He's a guard. He's
not fast enough for those defensive ends.
No, his footwork, it's really tough. And by the way, this defensive line that we're going to see is going to be in the backfield all day, whoever plays.
This is, I have to look at the front office and say, come on, guys, you knew what it was. You guys knew these guys. All of them had surgery. And none of them were practicing. None of them were ready to play. This is what happens when you roll them out during the season. Like, Jed Wills was barely – like, let me just be completely honest with people. Jed Wills is not mentally or physically prepared to play at this point. He does not know his assignments. I saw him on film not block anybody and turn and spin in complete circles.
I saw
and
that
then
as well.
Walked upfield. He's not physically able to play. He's not mentally ready to play. DeJuan Jones is not physically able to play, if DeJuan Jones is going to do what he did last week, they got to go get somebody off the street. They got to go find some people. And the front office knew this going into the season, and now you're here with a guard playing, left tackle, and Nick Harris, by the way, he's a fullback at this point. He cannot play.
He is.
Not big.
They treated him like a fullback in the game.
You're right. If Bitonio plays left tackle, if they shift, then you'll have Bitonio playing left tackle that he's barely
out of
playing.
position.
You'll have Pochik out of position at left guard.
Yep.
You'll have a center who's undersized, a right guard making his first NFL start, and a right tackle who's
we don't even know if he's
overweight
going to
even for him.
And we don't even know
in
if he's going to
terrible
play.
shape, and I guess we don't know he's going to play either.
Yeah.
It really can't be worse than that.
And so here's, I think, the problem. I think your comment about the front office overlooking this is exactly right. When Conklin was given the extension, we all kind of looked around and said, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
I must have misunderstood his age. It's easy to think about. I always say the football team, the body and the coat of paint are your skills players. But the drivetrain and the engine are your offensive and defensive lines. And sometimes teams get caught up in the pretty. Mm-hmm. Oh, I need that Ferrari body and that red, candy apple red with flecks in the paint. I got to have that. And I need the new tires, and you look great. But then you start the engine, and you got a 71 VW Bug engine in the Ferrari.
Yeah.
What powers football teams, and the more I watch football, the more I'm entrenched in this belief. Yes, quarterbacks are widely important. But to me, you win in the trenches. If you can control the offensive line of scrimmage when you're on offense and the defensive line of scrimmage on defense, and if you look at the way the Chiefs, yes, they've got shiny parts, but they sacrificed some skill positions to make sure they were strong up front on both sides of the ball.
But to be fair to the Browns, now the criticism of not being prepared for the injuries at tackle is fine. It's fair. The Browns have spent more money on their offensive line than any team in football.
Not wisely, in my view, not wisely.
That's fair, but it's not like they've ignored the position.
No, but you've got to be very, very judicious and smart about where you spend the money.
I think part of the problem is it looks like Bitonio has gotten old.
Yes.
He has.
And that's part of the problem.
Yes.
I don't know this for a fact. It's just speculation. I don't think they realized that this – I think they thought as a team that Jed Wills was going to be ready to go for the start of the season.
But Jed Wills, this is my problem.
Yeah.
Again, Jed Wills was never good.
But he was – well, listen.
No, he wasn't.
No.
What we had a level of expectation for him.
Yeah.
And he was way below that. And then when he started to play okay, we thought, Jason said, I guess that's what he is now. We'll accept it.
He was average. He was an average player.
No. At his peak.
And Greg Cosell, who studies the film as well as anybody, says he's better than that. So,
Listen, here's the reason.
But what were you going to do, G? You had Jed Wills for this year. They weren't going to spend big money on another tackle.
I think he's talking about going back in time. The Conklin extension was a head scratcher.
That was a bad one. Yes, I agree.
You didn't – see, this is what I believe. I believe people have diminished so many other aspects of the league that you wonder why are guys throwing for 150 or 160 or under 200? Because we kept saying, well, you could be a great quarterback and not have a great line. Joe Burrow did it. Hey, you could be a great quarterback and throw the ball 60 times a game. We don't need running backs.
Yeah.
And so now you got a bunch of people with a bunch of teams with below average line play and no running game and say, well, what's wrong? What's wrong with the league? What's wrong with the league is the Cleveland Browns game plan should have been what the Cleveland Browns game plan was from Jump Street. Is running the ball 30 to 40 times a game and figuring out whether they can dink and dunk and get down the field and score some points, play defense. But no, they decided with a bunch of offensive linemen that have been hurt, battered, and were run linemen to begin with, we're going to run 5 wide.
Yeah, it reminds me, G, of the girl who desperately wants to be tall, thin, and pretty, but she's not. But she's going to insist on wearing tall, thin, pretty girl clothes.
But that's a different subject from the offensive line.
It's what Jason wrote about. It's an identity crisis.
But what did you want him to do for the offensive line this offseason?
I would have liked them when there was guys out there in the waiver wires during preseason and said, are there some tackles available? There's opportunities in trades. There's opportunities in bringing in other guys and free agents. My thing is,
and at that point, they knew there was an issue.
But to be fair, at that point, I don't know that the guys that you're talking about are any better than the guys you have.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Ethan Poshitz was acquired that way.
You got Ethan.
Not a waiver cut down.
No, he was.
But still.
But look, I mean, Seattle gave up on him.
That's true.
You have guys. You knew Conklin and you knew Wills were hurt, and you knew they were. You knew them. You knew they weren't playing.
Right, but by that point, like, who are you going to get?
But so this is
Probably better players than you're able to get today.
This is the same conversation we had a couple of years ago against defensive tackles. When they went into the season 2 years ago with no defensive tackles, and then those defensive tackles either got hurt or were terrible, we said, well, what did you want them to do? I wanted you to take consideration that you knew this was not it. And
that's not a completely fair argument because the defensive tackles were clearly bad. They didn't have any talent.
Jed Wills is clearly, no, we didn't. Ain't no we. I told you from Jump Street Jed Wills was garbage 3 years ago. Ain't no we. We didn't say that. I said Jack Conklin should have never gotten an extension.
Well, we all
what is
did.
the we?
You didn't mention once this offseason that the Browns should go get a different left tackle to replace Jed Wills.
I mean, do I have to say it 4 years in a row?
You thought they should have gotten a new left tackle this year?
I told you, I was reading Jed Wills' PFF scores off 2 years ago like he's at 40.
Gee, we were talking the whole offseason about what this team needed. We didn't spend much time talking about the offensive line.
Bull,
it's easy to say it
that's
now.
fair.
To Bull's defense, we came into this season thinking the Browns had a top 5 offensive line.
Yeah.
Now that's true, but I was trying to wave every red flag I could. In fact, I had it in my top 5 concerns coming into the season about how much this team was going to miss Bill Callahan. Now, what Bill Callahan could do with this, I don't know. It's even worse than the mess he made look great last year. But this much I know. Last year, there were concerns with injuries on that offensive line. We saw that coming down the highway like a flashing train. We knew that there were issues with injuries. But what Bill Callahan was able to do last year was take chicken, you know what, and turn it into chicken salad. And when we watched, we said, wow, this offensive line, how are they doing it? Well, I think what they were doing was Callahan is so good, and he knows each guy's weaknesses that he was able to scheme it up so it looked acceptable on Sunday afternoon.
I personally don't think this has much to do with
this year.
Yeah, but you have to also look at what he has to work with there. What he has to work with, what he had to work with here was not horrible. It wasn't. Postich was a guy that was an all-pro. Yes, we got him on that scrap heap, basically, but he was an all-pro. Joel Bitonio was still not old.
Nobody's giving me an answer
as to in the first round the last 2 years.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're great.
I'm just saying it's not like they
we've taken wide receivers in the third round the last couple of years, and how are they doing?
I don't think this has that much. Obviously, losing Bill Callahan's a loss. I don't think they have veteran offensive linemen outside of DeJuan Jones. For those guys, it shouldn't matter whether Bill Callahan's
Well, the problem is,
Bull,
they're too veteran. Like you said it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we always forget that an offseason is 8 months long. And we forget how quickly 8 months can change for the 32-year-old, 34-year-old body that's been playing football.
But none of us thought Joel Bitonio was going to go downhill this year.
No, but we all knew it was an option. We all knew it was a possibility. Bull,
he's 33.
What did you want them to do? What did you want them to do? They're already spending the most on offensive line. What would you want them to do?
I wanted them to go back to the extensions that they were giving offensive linemen like it was free money, and not
outside of Conklin. None of us had any complaints with the other extension. What extensions? The only other extension was Bitonio. None of us had a problem with that because he's been great.
I had a big problem with the Conklin one. We all did.
But just Conklin. That's one.
So listen. Yeah. I would like them. Your answer your question is go out and trade for offensive linemen.
But okay, fine.
With what assets?
But you're not going to get a good offensive lineman. But who's trading a good offensive lineman?
But here's the thing. You are stripping away development, and you're stripping away your prowess as a GM to identify talent at other places. You can't say, well, unless I get a top 5 tackle, it's going to be a bust. No, you look at people on roster. That's what they get paid to do. Look at rosters, evaluate talent, find diamonds in the rough, and bring them in.
You can get a serviceable player.
You just said offensive line plays terrible across the league. If there's an offensive lineman with any potential at all, why would a team trade him?
Listen,
why did Seattle trade Posich?
That was 3 years ago. I don't know.
But they missed. They missed.
Bull, you can get a guy. Every other offensive lineman is not garbage.
Gee, I'm just saying, like, if they trade for the 9th offensive lineman, it might be better, but it might not be any better.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
They brought in guys off the street, right, last year? Right? Remember the Christensen guy?
Yeah.
And what happened? Did they go to the playoffs?
Christian's a free agent. They can sign him right now.
There you go.
Let me ask you this, Bull,
Okay,
and I know that it's too early probably to ask this
Yeah.
question, but that's what we do. In certain seasons, you can point to one room and say that's where the season devolved. We've seen it happen at wide receiver. There's just no options. We've seen it happen at defensive tackle.
Yep.
So
I don't think it's just the offensive line. I think it's the whole offense.
No.
They all suck.
So here's my question. Yeah. I know they all suck, but let's face it. A quarterback that has no time to throw is a bad quarterback. Very rarely, now it's happened, I don't want to say it's never happened, but very rarely will a quarterback be able to overcome an absolutely god-awful offensive line. And that's what we're dealing with this year. To me, I know it's early. We're only going into week 4. But it already feels like when we autopsy the body in January, it feels like the death started at the offensive line. Is that fair for you? I know it's early, but I don't know how you win in football with this offensive line.
I don't know. They still, there's some degree of fairness to that. But to blame I'm fine kicking the Browns in the teeth because they deserve it quite often.
Sure, you do it often.
I just think to they had Wyatt Teller, who's been a Pro Bowler. He got hurt. What are you going to do?
Okay.
Might do. They drafted Zach Zinter. Maybe he's going to be good.
I like.
You had Bitonio, who's a Pro Bowler. Now he's off to a bad start, but he might turn it around. Even though he's older, he's not that old. There's been older offensive linemen who've played well. You still have Pocic. Nobody was saying replace DeJuan Jones last year. He played very well last year.
Played awesome.
And now he's in terrible shape. That's his fault. That's not the Browns' fault.
Is it possible it's the Browns' fault?
I mean, they got to take a level of blame in that, sure, but it's mostly his fault.
I'll say this.
Now, the left tackle situation, the one thing I'll say is, they signed Fetty and they signed Hakeem Adeniji this offseason, who are very low-tier left, tackles.
Yeah,
they could have signed a better, fourth tackle, third tackle option, but outside of that, I can't kill him for the guards.
How much available cap space do the Browns currently sit on?
The Browns have a lot now because they kicked more down the road.
So
the most in football, Jay.
Yeah.
They just signed 2 more guys to the practice squad. Just because we don't know their names doesn't mean they're not any better than the guys.
I know, but you know what you're usually getting. You're going to the used parts.
I hear you, but that's all that's left at this point.
Well, listen,
that's it.
They got draft picks. Use them.
Obviously, the offensive line is going to be a priority in the draft going forward. No doubt about it.
But see, that's the problem, though.
Yeah.
Because we've already said, we got to get the offensive line. You don't have no receivers next year. 0.
No, Judy's here.
You got
Jerry Jeudy, and that's it. Amari Cooper won't be here. Elijah Moore won't be here. Who knows about Thrash? Who knows about Tim and David Bell? You have no receivers.
Well, they got a lot to do. They're gonna have a lot to do this offseason. And the one thing I'll say is we know the Browns are not afraid to spend money, so they'll spend some money in free agency.
Well, they're sitting on a mountain right now, and they like to have
offensive line is a
major
problem. But frankly, the entire offense is a major problem. There's no unit that's playing well on the offense.
And you know what? To me, the worst part about this discussion is this. What did every single critic, expert, even some of the players, say was the most important thing about the 2024 season? We had to see what Deshaun Watson is. We're not going to see what Deshaun Watson is or could become.
I don't buy that.
Behind this offensive line, Bull. We're just not.
I don't buy it.
Here's what I've taken already. He's not nearly as quick getting through his reads as he needs to be.
No.
So if you've got a bad offensive line, you better have a quarterback that can process at warp speed.
Okay, so you are learning about him that he can't.
Well, but the problem is, going forward, are you drafting a quarterback next year? I've already seen mocks for next year that the Browns are taking a quarterback.
If Deshaun Watson has a bad year, then if I were the Browns, I would absolutely take a quarterback.
And you also need wide receivers and offensive linemen.
Well, listen, every team needs a bunch of things.
So that's crazy. So you move on from them, but you're admitting that you need wide receivers and offensive linemen.
Yeah, but
so I mean that kind of tells. So what a great work! What a great a pile of stuff that we got to deal with. Right, this is beautiful.
He got the NFL. Every team has to deal with that.
And
the Browns are not the only team having to deal with that.
Deshaun Watson is the topic of our next discussion, and we'll get to that after a quick word from Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. Prize Picks puts their their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you get your money back in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the PrizePick app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't have to even win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game when you want. Guys, looking at this Sunday's matchup against the Raiders, for just this one particular game, not for the rest of season, not for the rest of their careers, not for what they've done in the past, for just this Sunday, would you rather have Deshaun Watson or Gardner Minshew under center for your team?
Think about how pathetic that question is.
You said that on the morning call this morning. I said that out loud when I was looking at the rundown last night. I said, oh, my God, it's come to this.
It's a fair question.
And listen, I asked myself, is that a legitimate question? And the sad thing is, Bull, this is a legitimate question. That's where we are.
I feel like it is. You feel like it's not a legitimate question, I'm guessing.
I mean, nah. Like, I mean,
Or
you know,
no.
they both ain't playing well, so it's a legitimate question.
Minshew's ranked 29th.
Yeah,
in the current rankings.
Dan Pizzuta, the quarterback rankings, we decided we were going to follow.
Yes. And by the way, I think for the most part, he's got some big misses in there, I think. But for the most part, I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, so we decided we picked that one just so we could follow one, so we're just consistently following one. He's actually a lot lower on Watson. I'm not sure it was the greatest one if you're a Browns fan to pick and choose to follow. But in his Week 4 quarterback ranking, Steve, it's 284. He has Skylar Thompson ranked as the 32nd ranked quarterback, Deshaun at 31, Will Levis at 30, Gardner Minshew at 29, and Bo Nix at 28. So this is a matchup, according to Dan Pizzuta of the 33rd team, of 2 of the 4 worst quarterbacks in football.
What's funny to me is Bo Nix has had some success already. And he's got Caleb Williams. He did have him at like number 8. I don't know where he is now.
He's dropped significantly. He's like 24.
Well, he should have, but he had him in the top 10. And Bo Nix has looked serviceable. Like, I've seen things in Bo Nix that make me say, okay, there's something there. When I watch Caleb Williams, I've yet to say, oh, there's the spark. That's what they're seeing. I haven't seen that yet.
Do we like QBR? Do we think that's a good stat?
Again, I don't think anything's perfect, but
it's better than quarterback rating.
I think it is too. Yeah.
QBR at a 31 rated quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson is 30th.
Jeez.
Gardner Minshew's 24th, by the way. Baker Mayfield, 23rd.
So the reason I would say I would take Gardner Minshew is this. He played against this defense, although it was with a different team last year. He played against this defense last year and carved us up like a bad Thanksgiving Day turkey. He threw for 3 and ran for 2, if my memory is correct.
Ran for 1.
Ran for 1. I thought he ran for 2. Are we sure he only ran for 1?
Yeah, they didn't score 42 points. They only scored 35.
So he threw for 3 and ran for 1. That's crazy. Against the defense, by the way, that we all agreed was top 5. And he made us look like we were just off the bus.
He was the first quarterback to start with the read option stuff. They figured out that the Browns' aggressiveness just does not look good.
He used it against us.
Yeah, so that was the start of that actually happening. Gardner Minshew played well. Like, actually, be truthful, I thought they should have won that game. It was a couple of calls that later on in the game that went the Browns' way, ironically, because
didn't they have a throw into the end zone at the end that they nearly completed that would have beat us?
Yeah. Now, it's close. I mean, Gardner Minshew, to put it in perspective, I had him on one of my fantasy teams, to be truthful. I picked him up. But let's not forget that people thought that he could have got benched this week.
There was some talk that he was going to be benched.
Talk he was going to be benched this week.
I've wondered, if the deciding factor wasn't his success against the Browns last year.
And the backup is a statue. So they want to move a little bit with that. I would take Deshaun Watson, but it wouldn't be like, I'm 1,000% sure Deshaun Watson's going to play better than Gardner Minshew. I would take him because, Deshaun Watson has more of a track record of being good besides Gardner Minshew. I will say this, and I've kind of rethought this, and, I was laying around yesterday, was looking on the internet, and this was kind of crazy to me, and it dawned on me. Back when I was in college, I came from McKinley. We won 2 state championships.
You won a national championship.
You won a national championship, and I got to OU, and half of me, the whole first year I was there, I was actually mad and upset that I was there. Like, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, I ended up being here. I ended up being.
Where would you have gone if not for OU?
So my other visits was like I had a visit playing with Marshall. My last visit was Michigan, Wisconsin, and Cincinnati. But I was so mad.
Wait, did you take those visits?
No.
Oh, why not?
Because they're slotted based on like how bad they want you.
Availability. Yeah.
So they're like, yo, they scheduled these other visits above guys, and I had already been to these camps, and like I was already rated higher than them. And then they're like, we're gonna bring this guy in. So I was immediately on my Baker Mayfield. I was like, nah. So I went to the first place, and they were like, yeah, you're the highest recruit we ever had. They opened the doors. I loved the coach. I thought what we was talking about, and he was just like, you could prove a lot of people wrong. So I was just like, I'm gonna take that. Like, I'm gonna go here. I ain't even taking the rest of my visits.
That's what OU said.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the rest of the like the people would say, you're not taking the visits. Like, even the recruiting magazines was like, so you're just you mean you're going to OU? And I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm going. So like I get there and we go, and my freshman year we go 1-10. And
what were they the year before?
When I got there?
No, your senior year when you decided I'm going to OU. What do you remember? What their record was that year?
They had won 7 games that year.
So they were a winning program when you committed.
Yeah. So then, then they had a great coach. Jim Groban eventually went to Wake Forest. Right. They won the ACC. So I'm like, I love the coaches. And one of the coaching staffs, the first coaching staff that was there, shout out to Coach McCartney. I don't know where he's at, Ray McCartney. He's just like, listen, that guy over there is special. We we run defense. That guy is coming to take one of these seniors' positions, right? And he used to he's like, listen, don't tell nobody this. He's like, bro, I don't listen. I get paid for you to get sacks. I don't get paid for you. Listen, they might check your class, but as long as you doing what you need to do on this field, I don't care what the heck you do.
Wow.
And I was like, touche. So at that point, I made sure that I went to every class because I felt like I didn't want him. Like, I felt like that was a respectful thing for him to say to me, and I didn't want to make him look bad. So I just went all out. We lost. Long story short, we went 1-10. And my brother, who was in high school at the time, came up, and he was visiting. And we was in the dorms, and I'll never forget this. And he pulled me aside. Now, this is my younger brother. He pulled me aside and said, yo, hey, man, what happened? I said, what you mean what happened? He said, man, this ain't the G. Bush I knew.
Why'd you come here?
And he said, bro, you here, you just out here going through the motions. He said, bro, I'll never forget this. He said, bro, they don't pay you to be in your gap. And I said, oh, snaps. I had to go back and reflect on it. The losing and being around other people that was always losing and guys being happy that they was there.
Apathy breeds apathy.
And he said, I had to realize, he said, bro, where your stats? Where your dances? Where your visor? Where your celebrations? Why your cleats look like that? Why are you even letting him touch you like that? The girls you talk to is subpar. They're 5s. You used to only mess with 9s and 10s. What happened, G. Bush? And I had to stand back and I said, you can learn something from somebody anywhere. Long story short is, Deshaun Watson, it ain't going to get no better. Somebody need to pull your coattail and tell you, hey, bro, they don't pay you for running play action. They pay you for making big-time plays. And if you don't make no big-time plays, and if you ain't going to be special, and I don't care, just to your point, it's a decoy. Forget a decoy. Ain't nothing to decoy. I decide where I'm going to throw the ball. If Kevin Stefanski is telling you, hey, we just need you to be regular, that ain't going to turn out well. They don't pay you to be regular. You better be special. And you better say, I'm okay with making mistakes, trying to be special. But the quickest way for you to lose football games and the quickest way for you to take L's is to have Amari Cooper up there answering questions. Amari Cooper don't answer questions. He catch footballs. They paid you to be special. You have to be the special one. And so the rest of the season, the line play ain't going to be better. Nick Chubb is whatever it's going to be. But listen, man, the only way the Cleveland Browns, people say you need to do what you need to do to win football games. Well, Deshaun, knock. Big homie over here, G. Bush said, hey, listen, the only way y'all going to win any games is if you be special, not regular.
That's very true. That's well said.
Good story.
I like it. I think
Did it fire you up?
Oh, after that, man, I went to practice.
Yeah.
And like when he told me that, like it changed the way I was thinking. I went to practice and I had to start thinking about practice like I used to think of practice. Practice when I got redshirted or when I played in McKinley, like, you know, I was upset that Mike Doss was playing ahead of me. I was that arrogant. Like Kenny Peterson is a professional athlete, two-time defensive player of the year. I told my dad, I said, yes, I'm not transferring to Massillon. They're gonna have to put me like my family members came to the games and said, if you don't do nothing, we ain't never coming back. Think about that.
Wow.
It's like if you don't play well, one game, we're never coming back to this. This is parents. And I balled out that game and the rest is history. But I shout out to my brother and other people. For anybody out there, regular don't get paid. People want you to be regular. Don't you do it.
Were you guys okay? I'm sure you talked about it. Were you guys okay with Deshaun's comment earlier this week? I'm not a running back. Were you okay with that?
I don't know that we heard that comment.
I didn't hear that.
He talked yesterday. He just was asked.
That was an interesting
if
comment.
he wants more.
Do you want more design runs? And he said, no. I'm not a running back. I don't want to run
I don't have
football.
a problem with that. I agree with him.
Listen,
a lot of fans did.
Hey, guess what? On the contrary, that's the only way they're gonna win. They better put that
that's what I thought too, G. Like, I understand that you probably don't want to come out and say that, but if I hit sliders and my average on sliders is 450, and that's what's made me a better baseball player. Mm-hmm. I want to hit sliders. I want to hit as many sliders as I can get. Throw me sliders. I want to hit them.
Right, but he can't move like he used to.
Well, see, that takes me to my next question.
Yeah.
Are we ready to say that physically the Deshaun Watson that won a national championship at Clemson and that looked like an MVP caliber player in Houston, that skill set is gone forever at 29? Mm-mm. Are we ready to say that?
I think it might be.
I saw it play in the game.
Really?
Yeah, I think it might be.
You probably seen
That's
this
alarming
play.
if it is, Bull.
Yes.
Because that's why he's here.
McNuggets, you seen a play where
Which one?
The play where it's actually on the drive in which they scored a touchdown. He had a man open on this one play. He just said, I'm Deshaun Watson. I'm going to get up I'm in the hole. I'm going to hit you with a juke move. I'm going to hit it with a speed cut. Now it's me and one-on-one. Listen, that's a gain of 14, 15 yards and scrambling after he got hit all day. No, that's still in there. His escapability is still in there.
He made some plays against the Jaguars.
I saw
against
some.
One-on-one defenders. Real quick, though, Bo, you never got a chance to answer this question.
Yeah,
Minshew or Watson?
Honestly, it's hard because I wouldn't want to have either right now, but I guess I'd go with Gardner Minshew. I mean, he played very well in the fourth quarter against the Ravens in what is the best win that either of these teams has had. He led them on 3 scoring drives, including a touchdown pass to Devontae Adams when they were down, I believe, 10 to the Ravens going into the fourth quarter or early in the fourth quarter. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but I guess right now, this moment in time, he said for just this game, I guess I'd rather have Minshew. Sucks.
See? Hey, like that's just, and you know what? Maybe that get into your psyche. Maybe that get you going because that's what the conversation is at this point.
Gee, I keep hoping that something, because he hears everything. I keep hoping that he's going to hear the right thing that sparks the G. Bush freshman year OU.
Yeah, he needs that.
I keep hoping that while he's hearing this criticism, instead of dismissing it and having a burner account, if that's what he did, and answering these people in a silly way, just go ball out. Go be Deshaun Watson, Houston Deshaun Watson. Go do that. And I'm sure it's not for a lack of want, but maybe he's not putting in enough film study. Maybe he's not putting in enough. He's missing open receivers too. He's missing open receivers, and that's an issue. So is he working hard enough? I remember when Hugh Jackson was the coach in Baker's rookie year. Hugh Jackson was good at head games. And he said to Baker one day in training camp, "What time did you get here?" Baker said, 10 o'clock. Ready to go on the field, 11 o'clock. He said, "You see that guy over there? He's here at 7. You need to be here more. You need to get here earlier, and you need to stay later." And Baker talked about how that he kind of asked himself a question, well, I guess I'm not doing enough. And I keep wondering, where is that watershed moment where Deshaun Watson hears the right piece of criticism or reads the right piece of criticism, and he doesn't get defensive, and he self-inspects, and he said, wow, so I'm now Gardner Minshew. It's time to put on my cape and take off these horn-rimmed glasses and go play like Superman.
And you know, like, he has to realize this on him. This is the point in which it's either fight or flight, bro. It's all on you. The offensive line is what it is.
It's not going to get better.
It's not going to get better throughout the season. You need to make sure that when there's a play to be made, you got to look at it. I got to make that play. And the answer should have been, when he was talking about it, do you want more design runs? And he said, no, I'm not a running back. He should have said, whatever I got to do.
That's what I wanted to hear him say.
If I got to
what's going to make this team better?
Right. If I got to run it,
instead he was like, nope, I don't want to do that. I'm not a running back.
I do think the offensive line could get better as the season goes. We'll see.
If they get healthier, they will.
Right. But also, like, no matter how much you're getting sacked, let's say you get sacked 10 times. Well, and I know that sounds crazy, but so if you're a good quarterback and you get sacked 10 times, and you know, hey, I don't have the same opportunity that Patrick Mahomes does because he's getting better protection. Well, I got to take more advantage of the times where I don't get sacked and I don't get pressured. There's not as many, but I got to be great in those moments when I have the opportunity. He hasn't been.
It's a great point. We asked the same question last week. Are we 100% sure that Deshaun Watson's going to be the best quarterback on the field? And we all said, well, you can never be 100% sure, but yeah, he's better than Daniel Jones. No, he's not.
Well,
I watched Daniel Jones again last night do what today's NFL dictates he do. Quick drop, throw.
Yeah, but he did.
Quick drop, throw. Well, his numbers were, he completed like 65, 70% of his passes.
He can't throw deep.
Dunks. Yeah,
but listen.
That's what it is.
We're going to dismiss dink and dunks. Look at Patrick Mahomes.
Jay, but
that's the league
I'm not
right now.
dismissing dink and dunks. I'm saying he can't throw the deep ball at all. He's the worst deep ball thrower in the league.
Bull, 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
In today's NFL, not even Patrick Mahomes is throwing deep balls.
No, but they had deep shots that could have been touchdowns with better throws.
He couldn't make the
and
throws.
He missed them.
Daniel Jones stinks.
Daniel Jones is doing what today's NFL is giving him.
I mean, he's 1-3. And they're 1-3.
He is, but you know what? When you look at his completions, I want that out of our guy. I want that out of our guy.
Fine, but like Daniel Jones is not doing anything special. He's just better than Deshaun Watson.
The reason I bring that up is he has adapted to what the league is going to give him. Look, nobody's scoring 30 points a game anymore.
I mean, look what Dak did. It wasn't crazy. He get highest paid.
Dak's doing the same damn thing.
Dak is the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Didn't get any touchdowns. It was all field goals. So
I understand that, but that means he had 5 scoring drives yesterday.
He was better than Deshaun Watson last week. I didn't think Daniel Jones was very good yesterday, but I mean, Malik Neighbors is ridiculously special.
And he's also hurt now.
Nah, he just had a concussion.
Did you see the clip, though, that was circulating last night out of the Giants' locker room? I think I saw it on CBS.
Yes, Brian Burns asked him.
Was doing an interview, and he goes, yeah, how you doing, Nabe? And he said, or Leak, I think he called him.
He called him Leak.
And he said, not good. And he goes, not good? Oh, okay, yeah, he's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a transparent interaction.
He put an
Instagram up this morning that he said he's feeling better. But all right, guys, let's get to our 5 stats you need to know for this game on Sunday. But first, if you're an NFL fan, you can cash in big with a big return early on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get in a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're going to fly through some of these guys. I got a good stat, some bad stats, and we're going to end with a reason to feel positive about the upcoming Browns versus Raiders game. The first stat I have for you guys is that first touchdown pass Deshaun threw to Amari Cooper was one of the more improbable passes completed in recent memory. According to Next Gen Stats, that 24-yard touchdown pass against the Giants traveled 39.9 yards in the air with the sideline distance of 0.9 yards, less than 1 yard of sideline separation. According to Next Gen Stats, the completion probability of that pass was 14.5%. That was the 3rd most improbable completion of the entire season, and Watson's most improbable completion since Week 16 of the 2018 season. So there were signs that it still may be in there. He can dial it up when he needs to. That was a perfectly completed, thrown, executed play by
Who gets
Amari
more
Cooper,
credit for that,
Deshaun
though?
Watson.
Those stats, Deshaun or Amari?
Both.
I thought it was a great throw, and it was a great catch.
It was a really good throw, but Mike, you just presented it as that's a Deshaun Watson stat.
Well,
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because it took a great throw, and it took a great catch.
Nobody's better than Amari Cooper at keeping the feet in bounds on a play,
It's amazing.
like that.
He is so good at that.
Deshaun Watson he had about three throws in that game. We were like, dang,
That was a really good throw.
Yeah.
That's a crazy throw.
I think what was intoxicating was it was the first throw of the game.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay.
Yeah.
We saw a couple good throws after that, but nothing approaching that level.
I thought I thought the catch on the sideline of Amari Cooper, like that was a crazy throw too.
Amari had three
He
great
had
catches
three
on the
crazy
sideline.
catches on the sideline.
You know, you talk about we hope Deshaun hears the right piece of criticism.
Yeah.
It looks like Amari Cooper did. I mean, Amari Cooper was getting bashed, and rightfully so. And, man, he came out and he said, I'm still Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
I'm still that guy.
That's right.
Throw the ball to me. Even if I'm covered, I'm going to high point it. I'm going to make a great catch and ballerina toe tap. I'm going to get the job done. That's what we need to see from Deshaun Watson because you're right. It likely, I mean, yes, you're going to get Njoku back. Yes, you're going to get Chubb back. Those are huge elements to this offense that hopefully will alleviate some of the pressure from number 4. But the offensive line, yes, they could get more healthy, but you still got pieces up there that don't belong in the NFL on a starting offensive line.
Well, the offensive line is the next stat I want to focus on here. We started with the good. We're going to pivot to the bad here. This is before last night's game. So if anything changed due to Thursday night football, I do apologize. This is before last night's game. But the Browns have allowed 16 sacks this season. That's the most in the NFL. They're giving up a 12.1 sack rate on Watson's dropbacks. They've allowed 63 pressures. That's also the most in the NFL with a 44.7 pressure rate. That's second in the NFL behind New England. Pochich, Bitonio, and James Hudson all rank in the top 10 in pressures allowed. Pochich, number 1. To G. Bush's point, he's fallen off. He's allowed 14 pressures through 3 games. Bitonio, Hudson tied for 6 with 11 pressures allowed. Watson's been blitzed on 33% of his dropbacks this year. That's right around league average. But last week against the Giants, New York blitzed 57% of his dropbacks. That's completely off tendency for their defensive
It
coordinator.
is, but that's what they're going to see from now on.
And, well, it's a copycat league. Vegas has the 5th highest blitz percentage in football through the first 3 games of the season, so I'd expect a ton more. And I found this little nugget. We mentioned Dan Pizzuta in his quarterback rankings earlier. He tweeted this out yesterday. The 2 defenses in last night's game, Dallas and New York, combined for 31 quarterback hits in their games against the Browns. In last night's game against each other, they combined for 4, which just puts into context how much the offensive line has significantly struggled against pressure defenses.
It also puts into context when you blitz, the quarterback's got to be quick and make a quick decision because when the other team's blitzing, you got one-on-one coverage.
Somewhere.
Right?
Somewhere.
No,
Find
everywhere.
it. Yes.
If you're
find
blitzing,
it.
then everybody's one-on-one.
Not always. Not necessarily.
Well, I guess it depends how many guys are out.
You can blitz and run zone behind.
If you're running a 2 or 3
fair.
receiver set, then
That's true, but it's more wide open in the
Your
pass
point
game, but
is well
you've got to
made.
be quick.
yes, and that's the point where I said what we do know about Deshaun Watson is he does not have that quick process,
At least he doesn't now.
and he's going to have to understand. And I don't know if that means in practice you rush 8 guys on every play. Every play he's seeing 8 guys, and what that does is it speeds up his mental clock. I might not have to the back of my drop before I can look for a receiver. So start looking immediately, and if that means it's 3 or 4 or 5 yards down the field, it's better than a sack.
Go ahead, G.
The problem is should be so obvious that Kevin Stefanski, as the offensive coordinator, would understand these stats too, and he would do more than hand the ball to Deontay Foreman twice in the first half. When you saw what the recipe was against the Jaguars, if you have all those numbers and you know you guys are switching around, there's no way you can be in some of these sets and formations, especially given the fact that you have your starting tight end out who stays in and chips and blocks and releases. The Browns, the come to Jesus moment I just gave to Deshaun Watson, there needs to also be a come-to-Jesus moment for Kevin Stefanski.
Well,
If you can't do a better job of scheming open people and making sure that you have a competent game plan, maybe you do need to get that playbook up. I'm going to just be honest with you.
They need to adjust this week, no doubt. I mean, those numbers through 2 weeks weren't nearly as bad as last week was the worst performance by the offensive line. It got even worse last week. So, yes, there needs to be adjustment. Having Deontay Foreman not in the game plan when he ran effectively between the tackles in game 2 was a mistake. There's no doubt about it. I would love to know the reason why they didn't use him. Again, he's not a great back, but he's better than Jerome Ford between the tackles. That's what he does better. He hits the hole quicker than Jerome Ford does. He doesn't do that dancing around. And he'll at least get a couple of positive yards, so you're looking at 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7 instead of 2nd and 10.
Yeah, stay on schedule and run past the blitzers. If these teams are going to be blitzing, the Giants blitz 57% of the plays.
57% of his dropbacks.
That's inordinate,
Right.
I mean, that is crazy. So you can bet the Raiders are going to do that. So what you do then is you scheme running plays. So your guys are running right past the blitzers on the edges.
And I like, screen passes should work with that.
They should.
What happened to your screen game?
I mean, that should be
your screen game with Chubb and Hunt was second to none. What happened to that?
If your ends are firing, to the quarterback, immediately, and you got guys did a screen pass where I'm getting my tackle outside or getting my guard to pull.
What happened?
Should work.
What happened to you can take a play out of the Browns playbook. Like the Browns get gashed on this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
The motion plays. You know what kills people when you're trying to blitz? When guys are running back and forth,
which they did
on the line of scrimmage, and handing the ball to jet motions and screen and tunnels and bubble screen. It makes your defensive ends have to retrace their steps and cover downfield and just can't tee off on your quarterback.
And Jerome Ford is at his best when he's getting outside, so that's where you could use him most effectively.
I thought it would be a
and
good
Kevin,
idea.
Kevin Stefanski deserved a lot of criticism for last week.
He did.
And he better adjust. I mean, they got to. And that's how you stop the blitz, is by beating it.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it's by a screen pass, whether it's a run when they're not expecting it, or just a quick slant, pattern, whatever. Yeah. If you start beating it, they're not going to blitz as much.
There's nothing more frustrating for blitzing defensive ends and even safeties or wherever if you're not getting home.
That's right.
And if it's just an eighth of a second, you're too late, you're too late. At some point, the defensive coordinator has to adjust and say, we're not getting there. We're gonna send 4 or 5 or whatever. Mike, that was a great stat.
Thank you.
I think that really encapsulates how incompetent this offensive line has been.
They've struggled.
Worst in the league.
It's been the worst, yeah. Speaking of other bad stats, we have 2 more bad stats before we'll wrap up with a good one. It's a good bad sandwich. You mentioned Deshaun Watson earlier. It's some ugly company that he's currently in. Right now, through 3 weeks, he leads the NFL in total dropbacks, excluding Bryce Young, who's been benched. Deshaun is dead last in total QBR, success rate, and explosive play rate. His 24.5% off-target rate's the 3rd worst in the NFL and the worst of his career. The Browns' offense success rate as a team is the lowest it's been in any season for the franchise since moving back to Cleveland in 1999. And his EPA per dropback is the worst of any Cleveland starter through 3 weeks since they moved back to Cleveland in 99.
Wait, what?
Through 3 weeks, his EPA per dropback is worse than Brady Quinn, Tyrod Taylor, Brandon Weedy, Deshaun Kaiser, every quarterback that started the season for the Browns.
Okay,
through 3 weeks, he's been terrifying. As bad as it's come, according to EPA per dropback. It's just one stat.
Well, the EPA, I love EPA. Yeah,
it's a pretty good stat.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, everything on there is terrible.
Well, here's what that says. He's not just bad by metrics this year, because we said he's 31, 29, 30. Yeah. It's not just bad by this year's metrics. He's bad when measured against a historically bad group.
Yes.
And that is terrifying.
He's not getting any help, and his receivers are the focus of our next stat. Also not great. Damn. Jason Lloyd brought these to my attention. All these stats come from True Media. The Browns have a 5.2% drop rate this year. It's the 3rd highest in football. They lead the NFL in total drops. God. They average a max speed of 13.6 miles per hour on routes. That's the 3rd slowest in football. On deep routes, it barely gets any faster, 14.7 miles per hour on deep routes, even if they're not targeted.
When some of the league is running 20 and 21 miles an hour.
They are averaging less than 15. That's the slowest in football. They average 2.8 yards of separation on routes. That's 26th in football. Once again, these are before last night, so maybe they're one off, but this was before last night. Yeah, the receivers, not giving Deshaun any help.
So let me clarify, Mike. correct me if I'm wrong. Our offensive line can't block, right?
Correct.
Our receivers can't get open.
Our receivers can't get open,
And when they
can't
do-
run fast, and can't catch.
And when they do get open and they drop the rock at the highest rates,
the quarterback
and
is
our
missing it.
quarterback is the most inefficient quarterback in the league. Do I have all of that right?
All of that is correct.
Okay, well then that's why you have the worst offense in football.
You're right.
When
There's
your
no
quarterback's
hiding from it.
inefficient, your offensive line can't block, your wide receivers can't get open or
Yeah,
catch.
other than that,
that's-
Mrs. Lincoln, did you enjoy the
yeah,
play?
That's
Here's
bad.
the good news, though. We're going to end on a
Please
positive
give me
note.
something. I'm ready to jump off a tall building.
Listen, the Raiders' defense last week gave up 319 yards and 3 touchdowns to Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, the only quarterback in the NFL this year to throw for 303 touchdowns in a game against this Raiders secondary.
amazing?
The Raiders also have the worst rushing attack in football through 3 games. The Raiders running backs are
I know,
averaging
they're bad.
43 yards per game from the running
They're
back. That's
bad.
it. 43. It's a one-dimensional offense. It's a secondary that can be taken advantage of. By the way, Andy Dalton in this game with those 3 touchdowns passed Tony Romo for 25th all-time on the NFL's touchdown passing list, which I never would have guessed. Andy Dalton, top 25
Well, he's
all-time.
56
Andy
NFL.
Dalton
years
was a
old.
good quarterback.
He's a very
It's
good
still
quarterback.
25
Good,
of all
solid
time. It's still a high
quarterback.
number. So
He was the line.
Big picture, Bull.
Go ahead.
If there's a defense to take advantage of, this is a very
Now,
vulnerable defense.
you have that right now. You have that as the good news, but here's the bad news. If Andy Dalton did this against the Raiders defense, and our guy continues to roll out sub 200-yard passing days,
Yeah.
so in other words, if he's going to have a good day, this is the defense to do it against.
That's right.
If he looks in game 4 like he's looked in games 1, 2, and 3,
Not good.
I don't know at what point they say, well, we better find out if DTR has anything.
I don't.
Bull,
yeah.
you got it. You've got it. Are you going to draft a quarterback next year?
If Deshaun Watson stinks all season, yes.
Okay, so at some point, I need to know, is the guy we drafted a quarterback 2 years ago a potential answer?
I'm here to tell you, if
Yeah.
DTR is playing in a game or because Deshaun Watson got benched, get ready for the rebuild.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
on.
oh, yeah.
No.
That's a fire. Like I know people like are like, yeah. Well, if we get Deshaun up out of here, bro, you're back. We are back to talking about progress.
Square one.
So be careful what you wish for, because Myles Garrett is one of the first things smoking. DTR, I mean, the line is already in shambles.
But, G, do you agree with that premise that once you've made the decision, and I know you're not there, I'm as close to being there as I've ever been, and seeing these numbers gets me even closer. If at, let's say, week 8, we're still seeing middling Deshaun Watson, and we're still seeing numbers like this, don't at some point, as an organization, you have to do your due diligence, because you have to at some point start thinking about next year.
Well, no.
And if you're 2-6,
If maybe
Well, it don't-
they may
5.
already think he's not a starter.
it
so
don't.
DTR,
yes.
It don't
they
work-
may,
Yeah.
but I would like to definitively know that. I would
It
like
don't
to
work
say,
that way.
okay, the quarterback of our future is currently not on the roster.
They don't work that way, because then no GM wants to signal a teardown in the middle of a season.
No, but it's happened.
I mean, but
Sometimes, no GM wants to admit that you've got the worst offensive line, the worst wide receiver room, and the worst quarterback.
It should
but
be up to
reality
Kevin.
is reality.
At some point, if Kevin thinks the Browns have a better chance to win without Deshaun Watson, then he's got to pull the trigger. He's the coach.
I agree
I'm not
with
saying
that.
he would feel that way, but if
Now,
he does.
do you think he'd get pushback from DePodesta?
But
and
what could
Haslam?
they do? What are they going to fire him? They'll have to pay him, whatever.
I mean, I don't think Kevin's not the kind of guy that's going to be insubordinate.
he should be.
we're not
I agree with
talk-
that too.
he's the
but not.
coach.
I know.
Yeah.
it's going to take a catastrophe for them to switch. It just like that.
Are we close to a catastrophe in your mind?
No.
We're not.
I mean, you haven't been eliminated from the playoffs. You haven't even played a division game.
No, I get that.
I
It
don't
is
think there's any
very
chance
early.
that's happening
He
anytime
may go out
soon,
there
but-
Sunday. He may go out Sunday and do what Andy Dalton did. But the bar is that's to me that's where the bar is. Andy Dalton is a 36-year-old backup.
And by the way, there's no excuse if Andy Dalton. You can't say, well, Andy Dalton's been, Deshaun Watson's rusty. Well, Andy Dalton hasn't played in forever.
That guy's in
well,
mothballs.
the Panthers have better talent. No, they have no talent.
None.
They have no talent.
It's week to week.
It is week to week.
Any week.
But if Deshaun Watson's good, it's got to happen this week.
I need to see it.
We said the Giants was garbage. Not really. They can come out and smoke you that.
I said the Giants are going to win 5 games. I still think the Giants.
I think the Giants are better than we thought they were, and even last night. I mean, I don't think Dallas is very good either, but I do think that this is a team that could hover around 500 this year. They're not a playoff team, but they're better than I thought they were.
Let's talk a little Guardians, guys, to wrap up the show before we head over to WKYC. And if you're looking to invest with Robinhood Gold, because you don't need a silver spoon to eat up financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows you to excuse me. I'm going to start this one over because I totally botched that.
Jeez.
Take 2.
Cut. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Bull, you sent me this topic this morning. We're going to skip the AL Central, AFC North. Let's go with the Guardians, and you can set this one up.
So it's not set in stone yet who's playing in the matchup that will eventually play against the Guardians because, the Guardians could still end up as the 1 seed. That's possible. It's unlikely, but
they
it's
have
possible.
to win
Guardians have
2 more games than the Yankees this weekend.
That's right. So the Guardians.
So if the Yankees win 2, we're out.
Yankees win 2. They lock
up. If they
up
win
the top
none
seed.
or 1, we can do it.
We could do it with a sweep or 2 of 3.
Yeah.
And they're playing the Pirates, who stink.
Yeah.
But they do have Paul Skeens pitching tomorrow,
which helps.
And they have Jarrett Jones, who's another good young pitcher, pitching today. So we'll see. But probably the Guardians are going to be the 1 seed.
The 2 seed.
I'm sorry, the 2 seed. On the other side, Minnesota is still mathematically alive for the playoffs, but their elimination number is 1. So they're probably not going to make the playoffs.
They have to win all 3. Detroit has to lose all 3.
Or Kansas City. One of the two has to lose all 3.
You're right.
Which will probably not. Detroit's playing the White Sox, by the way.
That's
now, Kansas City's playing Atlanta, I believe, so you never know.
Although Chicago is staving off 121.
They're playing
like they're a playoff team.
They are for now. But Minnesota's falling apart. I think they'll lose tonight. They lost a game in 13 innings last night. By the way, Carlos Santana got picked off at second base in the 13th inning.
Awful.
That was bad.
Can't happen.
But the question is, the 3 teams that the Guardians are most likely to play when they start their second-round series a week from Saturday is the teams they're going to play is either the Astros, the Royals, or the Tigers. Now, I think the Tigers are going to end up as the 5 seed because I think they'll sweep the White Sox or at least win 2 out of 3. But we'll put them in there for now. Astros, Royals, Tigers. Those are the 3 teams you could play in the next round. So what's your preference, guys? Who do you want to play? You want the Royals?
I want the Royals.
How come the Royals?
Because I think that from the time that they caught the Guardians.
Yeah.
You remember they won, I think, 2 out of the first 2 or 3 of the first 3. I can't remember if that was.
I think it was 3 of the first 4. I think that's what it was.
Well, they lost the last game in the series, so
Yes.
they took the first 3.
Yes.
And they pulled even with the Guardians, and the sky was falling here in Cleveland.
Yes.
People thought, "Oh my God, we're done. We're done."
Yeah.
And since that point, they've gone completely in the tank, and the Guardians have completely found their stride. That win the next day, when they were tied, and then the Guardians came back and beat them the next day to go up 1 game.
Yeah.
That started it for both teams.
That's right.
Since that point, the Guardians are like 7 or 8 over 500, and the Royals are 7 or 8 under 500.
That's
it's
right.
just so I think now Detroit scares the hell out of me, Bull.
I want to play Detroit.
I don't, and here's why.
There's 2 reasons.
If you lose to the Tigers, it's worse than losing to anybody else. They're more our dreaded rival first cousin than the Royals are. They just are. I know the Royals are in our division, but they're the Tigers. And we've looked at them over the last couple of years as the little sisters of the poor.
Right.
I cannot have a series where the Tigers end the Guardians season this year. They traded people at the deadline. They were sellers.
Yeah.
School, I don't want to see him twice in a short series.
That's the number one reason.
That to me is my number one. But I also don't want to lose to the Tigers.
Now let me make it clear. I am actually picking the Astros. Believe it or not.
What? I want no parts of them.
Even though they're the experienced team,
I done dropped my phone.
I don't think the Astros. I think the Astros are. Outside of there was a stretch in like July, early August
where they got hot
really well. Outside of that, they've been a completely middling, nothing team all year.
Yeah, both to start the season and to end the season.
Yes, I think their lineup is living on reputation. It's not what it once was.
That's fair.
I think their starting rotation is not very good. Verlander has looked like a mess.
Whoa! That's Verlander.
I don't care. He's 43 years old.
I've never.
Yeah, but if he finds the fountain of youth again before the playoffs,
let me make it clear that I think all three of those teams are pretty close, and I'm expecting the Guardians to beat any of those three.
I am too.
I am expecting it, and I want
them in the ALCS.
But if I had to say, I would definitely be with you. I do not want the Tigers because, number one, they're the hottest team right now.
They are.
They're like. I mean, they were like 10 games under 500.
Not just in the division, in baseball.
Oh, in baseball.
But guys, listen. Yeah. The Astros have pedigree.
I hear you.
The Astros.
And that means something in October.
The Astros home field advantage is a thing.
It is.
When you go to Houston, that is
yeah,
a tough place.
They can't use the garbage cans anymore.
Hey, but it's a tough.
That's why it was
a tough place to play.
Yeah, but the crowd is good.
The crowd is good.
It is.
It's a hitter's ballpark. I don't like the fact.
Yeah, but
you know what? Gee, I'm going to throw something at you. Okay, last year coming into the playoffs, and we were having the same conversation.
Yeah.
Who said, "Well, the Rangers scare the hell out of me"? Nobody really thought that.
Yeah.
The Rangers were too young and too dumb to know what they didn't know.
That's right.
Right.
And they got in the playoffs, and because everybody was probably overlooking them in each series they played, they never lost a road game, which is still one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
Tiger fans,
they're playing with the same house money.
They didn't expect to be in the playoffs.
No.
They haven't been in the playoffs in years. Their fans are going to be so excited.
So are they the Rangers of this year? They could be.
They could be, and you said the first thing. This is the biggest thing. It's a 5-game series.
You got to beat the
I got
Cy
to
Young
assume
twice.
I'm going to lose. Well, you don't have to, but if you don't, you got to win all three.
You've got no safety net.
That guy's the best pitcher in baseball right now.
He is.
If it's a 7-game series, all right, the rest of their pitchers are.
Now, have you looked at his splits against the Guardians?
I have not.
I haven't either. Mike.
Yeah.
Could you look at Scooble's splits against I don't know that I think he's only faced this once or twice.
Yeah.
But I think
I was at one of the games. I'll pull it up right now. Hold on.
I mean, he has not had one awful start the whole year.
No, which is
his worst starts have been like 6 innings, 4 runs. Like,
yeah.
If the Guardians get 4 runs, that should be game time.
Should be.
Yeah, but
were you guys watching what the bullpen had done over 2 games? They had retired 31 straight hitters.
Yeah.
The Guardians bullpens.
Yeah.
The bullpen, it was a bullpen game on Tuesday. They had a perfect game to start the 7th inning.
Jay, just the one start against the Guardians this year.
How'd he pitch?
6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 10 hits. That was the game.
10 hits?
The only run he allowed was the Austin Hedges bunt. It was the game I was
They
at.
got 10 hits off him.
They did get 10 hits off Scooble, yeah.
That's insane.
All singles, essentially.
And listen, y'all told me, listen, if you plan him, you already know we going to the bullpen after 3 innings, 2 innings.
Yeah.
You could be bullpen cats after the 3rd inning. So I
can't do that on multiple days.
But
that's
no.
an emergency. If your starter gives up 3 or 4 runs, yes. But I don't think that's a plan going into any single game.
Listen, I would have it in if you going against the best pitcher in baseball, I cannot lose to you the opening game. The Guardians have to win game 1. They have to.
By the way, speaking of the bullpen, one other stat. I mentioned this yesterday. Jay, you'll appreciate this stat. You weren't here either, G. So I went and looked this up myself. So Emmanuel Clase has 47 saves this year, which is a crazy number.
His save Tuesday was nuts.
Bases loaded, nobody out gets out.
I know.
91 saves the last 2 years. There's only been, so I'll give you the first one. In the history of this franchise, there have been 333 pitchers that have gotten at least 1 save. 333 pitchers in Guardians/Indians franchise history that have gotten a save. Now, one of those 333 is, of course, Emmanuel Clase. So we take him out.
They didn't always count that stat.
No, it's been an official stat since 1969.
Yeah, exactly.
They started kind of talking about it in the 60s. It became official in 69.
Right.
So it's only, 55 years.
Yeah.
55 years. So 333 guys in 55 years have at least 1 save. We take him out. So there's 332 other guys. Only 10 Of the 332 other players that have gotten at least one save as a member of the Cleveland Indians/Guardians, have more saves in their Indians/Guardians career than he had this season.
That's crazy.
Only 10. And by the way, if he gets 2 more, it'll only be 9 because then he'll pass Steve Olin.
Wait, what was that? Mike was saying something.
If he gets 2 more, he passes Steve Olin, so there'll only be 9.
That's crazy.
The Guardians only have about, I want to say 7 closers in their history that have had 90-plus saves. He's got 91 in 2 years.
It's crazy.
91.
He's incredible. We got to get Super Chats in. One of the Super Chats is about Class A. And Super Chats today are brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks puts their members first, so you get your return as quickly as you put the money in. You can download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play your $5. And you don't even have to win to receive the bonus. It's guaranteed. That's $50 guaranteed just for playing with $5. Prize Picks, run your game when you want. All right, Super Chats. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's rock. First one comes from Slim Shaney, who says, I think it's time to retire Indians. Class A is the all-time Guardian save leader. Don't have to say Guardian/Indian/Nap/Spider/Flu.
That's not the way it works.
You can't do it because if you say he's the all-time Guardians leader,
Right, you might.
then you only count the players that wore a Guardians uniform.
Yeah, I get what he's saying. They were the Indians. They're not anymore. We all understand that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for any particular, I have no problem with the team being the Guardians at all.
But the fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about Guardians playoff history. You can't talk about 95 for
Right.
Guardians playoff history. They weren't called the
I
Guardians.
can't say they were the Guardians then.
No, if you want to say Cleveland baseball, which is what I found myself
Fine.
doing more often than not.
Yeah, there
All
you
right,
go.
3
Go
more
ahead.
real quick. Reggie Glover says the coaches need to be training these guys up. What happened to next man up mentality? These guys are pros and need to play like it, period. Jeffrey Clyburn says, and I don't know what this is referring to, she has a TV show at noon and cattle drive at 3. Not quite sure what that is. And Vernell Jackson says, we are basically a 500 team under this regime. And those are your Super Chats for today.
How much time we got, Mike?
17 seconds, 16 seconds, 15
All right, forget
seconds.
it. I had another good baseball stat, but we'll save it.
We'll see you on WKYC in 3 minutes and 10 seconds.
Peace.
Peace.